If someone had told me 2 months ago that I'd be sleeping on a friend's couch, researching divorce attorneys, and questioning the last 8 years of my life, I'd have laughed in their face. But here I am. My name is Lucas, I'm 34, and until recently, I thought I had a pretty solid marriage with my wife Marissa, 33. We weren't perfect, but who is? We'd built a life together, shared holidays, built careers side by side, talked about starting a family next year. I believed we were partners. Last weekend, I was supposed to be out of town on a guy's trip. Just a weekend getaway to watch the game with some old college buddies. But the trip got canceled last minute when Jake's daughter came down with the flu. Instead of being disappointed, I decided to surprise Marissa by coming home early. I picked up her favorite Thai takeout and pulled into our driveway around 9 p.m. Her car was there, along with a few others. I recognized her friend Jessica's Mini Cooper and Tara's SUV. Marissa had mentioned a girls' night while I was gone, so nothing seemed out of place at first. But as I walked around back to use the kitchen door, I heard them laughing on the patio. Loud, wine-fueled, open-mouth kind of laughter. I almost called out, but then I heard my name. I paused. I don't know why. Something about her tone made me stop. "Logan is just so clueless," Marissa slurred through laughter. "I've been sleeping with Damien for over 3 years and he still hasn't caught on." My heart stopped. Jessica let out a shocked laugh. "Wait, seriously? That long?" "I'm telling you, I could sleep with Damien in our bed and Lucas wouldn't notice." "Oh wait, I have!" They all shrieked with laughter. My knees went weak. I had to lean against the fence just to stay upright. I heard more, too much more. She talked about how Damien came over the night I was working late, how they'd hooked up on the couch I napped on, how she'd faked being sick during my dad's funeral so she could spend the weekend with him instead. I stood there frozen, stomach churning, ears burning. Every laugh stabbed me in the chest. I thought of all the nights I brought her dinner after a long shift, all the times I defended her to my mom when she said Marissa seemed distant, all the anniversaries I poured my heart into planning. I'd been loyal. I'd been blind, but I didn't confront them. I didn't storm in. I turned around, got back in my car, and drove to a nearby parking lot. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Eventually, I called Jake. He told me not to go home, told me to crash on his couch. "This isn't something you handle at midnight, man. Come here, we'll figure it out." I showed up at his place, takeout still sitting on the passenger seat, untouched. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just paced the living room while Jake sat quietly nearby. My whole world had shifted in an instant, and I couldn't figure out where to even begin picking up the pieces. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her know I'd found out. Not yet. Not until I had a plan. Over the next few days, I became an actor in my own life. Marissa had no idea what I'd overheard. When she texted me that Saturday night saying she and the girls were too tipsy to drive home and would be crashing at our place, I replied with a casual cool, "Have fun. Love you." I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but I knew that if I wanted to protect myself, I needed to stay calm. I needed to be methodical. The next morning, I told her the guys and I had ended up staying at Jake's after drinking too much. She didn't question it. In fact, she laughed about her hangover and said she had to clean up the wine-stained throw pillows because Tara can't hold her rosé. She even kissed me on the cheek and thanked me for being so understanding. The nerve. The absolute nerve. That day was the beginning of my quiet war. I started small. When she went to shower, I checked her phone. I'd never done that in our entire marriage. But now, all bets were off. What I found made my stomach turn. Thousands of messages between her and Damien, most of them coded, some not. Photos, voice notes, hotel confirmations, a shared Google Calendar titled Client Meetings that was anything but. She used our joint credit card to book a 2-night getaway at a resort just 30 minutes away. The same weekend, she claimed to be attending a real estate seminar. I remembered how she came home with pamphlets and a branded tote bag like it was real. That weekend, I'd sent her flowers to the hotel. I thought I was being romantic. She never even brought them back. I took screenshots of everything. Then I emailed the evidence to myself and created a secure digital folder. I backed that up to an external drive and stashed it at Jake's place. I also started photographing valuable items in the house, her designer handbags, watches, electronics. I made an inventory list like my divorce lawyer had recommended when I called her office from the parking lot at work. Each day, I played my part, the loving husband. I made coffee in the mornings. I listened to her talk about her clients. I even rubbed her shoulders one night while she texted Damien right in front of me. I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because I knew that every calm day was giving me time to prepare. Financially, I began making quiet moves. I opened a new checking account in my name only. I transferred half our savings, just enough to not raise suspicion. I called the bank and asked to put an alert on our joint account for any large withdrawals. I also met with my HR rep to reroute my direct deposit. Meanwhile, I started talking to people, carefully. I confided in my sister, who had never really liked Marissa but never said anything. I also told Jake everything. They both became my lifelines. Every time I wanted to break down or lash out, they reminded me of the bigger picture. I knew Marissa. She cared more about appearances than anything else. Her Instagram feed was a polished highlight reel of brunches, couple selfies, boss babe quotes, and motivational reels about loyalty and trust. The hypocrisy would have been funny if it weren't so gut-wrenching. I was building a case not just for court, but for everyone who thought she was someone she wasn't. And when the time came, I wouldn't just walk away. I'd make sure the world saw exactly who she really was. But for now, I kept smiling, kept playing along, and kept collecting proof, because the storm was coming. She just didn't know it yet. 2 weeks after I overheard Marissa's drunken confession, I was ready. Everything was in place. Legal documents, financial backups, evidence folders, even the emotional groundwork had been quietly laid. I'd stopped pretending I was confused or devastated. Now I was focused, cold, strategic. I picked my date carefully. It was the Saturday of Marissa's big client appreciation brunch, the one she'd been organizing for months. She was excited, giddy even, about showing off her latest listings and impressing a few potential investors. "This could level me up," she said the night before, curling up beside me, clueless. I nodded and smiled, even as I counted the hours. That morning, I got up early and made her coffee, just like always. I helped her load her signs and flyers into the car. She kissed me twice before driving off in a cloud of designer perfume and entitlement. At 10 a.m. sharp, I sent out the first package, an email to Damien's wife with attachments. Screenshots, emails, hotel receipts, one audio file of Marissa laughing about how dumb Liam is. He still makes me breakfast like nothing's wrong. I kept the tone simple, factual, no emotion, just truth. By 11:30, my phone was lighting up, missed calls from Marissa, from numbers I didn't recognize. Then Jake texted, "Brace yourself. Damien's wife went nuclear." Public Facebook post, tagged everyone. I checked. There it was, a brutal public takedown. Damien's wife had copied parts of the messages, blurred some photos, but made her point loud and clear. The post ended with, "To the woman who smiled in my face while sleeping with my husband, may you one day feel the betrayal you've caused." The comments exploded. Friends, co-workers, even extended family started chiming in. It wasn't just gossip, it was wildfire. People who'd praised Marissa as a power couple queen now tagged each other with shocked emojis and OMG reactions. By 1 p.m., Marissa had left her event. I knew because her best friend Lily texted me, "Dude, what happened?" She left crying and shaking. I didn't answer. I was too busy finalizing my next move. At 2 p.m., I hand-delivered the divorce papers to our landlord. We had a clause in the lease, no illegal or immoral activity. My attorney thought it could help me secure early release. I also turned over the keys to my new apartment, a quiet second-floor unit across town, small, clean, private, mine. At 3 p.m., I sent one more email, this time to her parents. I'd always respected them. I didn't want them blindsided when Marissa spun her version of events. I didn't include the explicit content, just enough to show that I hadn't made this decision lightly. No insults, no vengeance, just a timeline, evidence. The truth. Marissa got home around 5:30. I was already gone. I'd left her a note on the counter. "Marissa, you'll find your keys, my ring, and a copy of the divorce petition in the envelope. You may want to check your email." What happened after that? I can only piece together from the flurry of texts and voicemails. She called over 20 times, switched from fury to begging to threats. I ignored every one. The last voicemail she left that night was just 5 words, whispered and broken. How could you do this? But the real question, the one that echoed louder in my head, was how she could have done what she did for years. The next morning, I woke up in my new place. No makeup stains on the pillow, no lies hanging in the air, just sunlight, coffee, and a kind of silence that didn't feel empty. It felt like freedom. The fallout was swift and brutal. By the end of that weekend, Marissa's perfectly curated life had cracked wide open, and not in a way she could control with a filtered Instagram post and a vague quote about growth. She tried to get ahead of the damage, of course. Monday morning, she posted a story from our kitchen, pretending everything was normal. A latte, her laptop open, the caption, "Resetting for the week. Let's all be kind to ourselves today." It was painfully tone-deaf, considering that by then, half of her social circle had already heard the truth, from Damien's wife, from mutual friends, from the rippling digital chaos she couldn't delete fast enough. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Marissa was doing the work for me, digging the hole deeper every time she tried to spin things. By Tuesday, I was back at the apartment to collect a few more things. I timed it while she was supposed to be at a showing, but I ran into her anyway. She stood there in the living room, barefoot, in one of my old t-shirts like it meant something. Her eyes were red, her voice cracking as she asked, "Can we just talk?" I said nothing. I walked past her and kept packing. That silence? It hurt her more than yelling ever could have. Later that evening, she showed up at my new place. I should have seen it coming, but I guess part of me didn't think she'd have the nerve. She knocked like she owned the world, still convinced she could charm her way out of the wreckage. Her mascara was running, her voice trembling with rehearsed regret. "Liam, please, you don't understand what it's like. I made a mistake, but it wasn't like I didn't love you." I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. She poured out excuses like they were wine at a dinner party. Loneliness, boredom, the pressure to be perfect. Then she leaned in like she thought we might hug it out. That's when I handed her the spreadsheet. Blinked. "What is this?" "You're spending," I said calmly. "The hotel bills, the gifts, the dinners, all paid from our joint account." Her mouth fell open. "You kept track of this?" I nodded. "You weren't just unfaithful. You embezzled from our life, and now it's all documented for court." That was the moment she realized this wasn't some emotional outburst I'd get over in a few days. This was surgical, methodical, final. She started crying harder, muttering, "I didn't think you'd ever find out, not like this." I just stood there, arms crossed, until she turned and left without another word. Over the next few weeks, the collapse accelerated. Her friends ghosted her one by one. Michelle and Kayla, silent. Damien, now trying to patch things up with his wife by throwing Marissa under the bus. Her brokerage firm reassigned her best listings to another agent. Reputation, after all, is everything in real estate. Her parents called me, awkward and embarrassed. "We didn't know," her mother said. I told them it wasn't their fault, but I also told them I was done protecting Marissa's image. The truth was out, and I wasn't pulling punches anymore. The last time I saw her, she was coming out of the leasing office where she'd just given notice on the apartment. She didn't see me, but I watched her walk to her car, slower than usual, shoulders slumped. The heels were gone, the designer tote replaced with a reusable grocery bag. I didn't feel satisfaction, just closure. She once laughed with her friends about how stupid I was. That man? He's gone. What's left is someone she never saw coming, because she was too busy looking down. It's been 6 months since that night Marissa stood on my doorstep, makeup smeared and pride shattered. 6 months since she realized I wasn't the fool she laughed about, but the man who'd been quietly dismantling her fantasy while she was busy playing house with another man. A lot has changed since then. The divorce is finalized. It was cleaner than I expected, probably because my lawyer walked in with a file so thick it could have been its own crime drama. Marissa tried to argue for alimony at first, citing the emotional labor she contributed to the marriage. But once my attorney presented the timeline of her affair, the hotel receipts and the shared bank account transactions used to fund her romantic escapades, the judge shut it down before it even began. I walked away with everything I needed. The car, my retirement accounts, the portion of the savings that hadn't been bled dry. She got enough to rent a one-bedroom near her parents. No more downtown high-rise, no more designer bags, Just the basics. She tried to rebuild her image online for a while, posted stories about healing, growth, self-love. At first, I'll admit, it bothered me, seeing her pretend like she was the victim, like she was finding her truth while the world had somehow wronged her. But then I realized it didn't matter. The people who mattered knew the truth, and the people still clinging to her carefully filtered persona? Let them. I was done managing anyone else's perception of what happened. As for me, I started over, for real this time. Not just moving out and buying new furniture, but rebuilding who I was without her. I signed up for therapy, joined a local co-ed soccer league, started meeting friends for trivia night on Thursdays. My apartment? It's not flashy, but it's mine. Everything inside it is chosen, not inherited from a shared past. I even started dating again. Slowly, carefully. Her name is Claire. We met at a community art class I took on a whim. One of those try something new resolutions I actually followed through on. She's nothing like Marissa. Doesn't care about appearances or status. She asks real questions. She listens when I speak, and she never makes me feel small for being vulnerable. I told her about what happened, not everything, but the core of it. And she didn't flinch, just nodded and said, "You didn't deserve that. I'm glad you're still open to love." That stuck with me. The other day I ran into Marissa again. Total accident, at the grocery store of all places. She looked different, softer maybe, tired. She asked how I was, tried to smile like we were old friends. I was polite, told her I was doing well, that I hoped she was too. She paused, then said something that surprised me. "You really loved me, didn't you?" I looked her in the eye and said, "Yes, I did." She nodded, blinked fast like she was holding something back, then walked away without saying another word. I haven't heard from her since. I don't need to. Because here's the thing, no one tells you when your life blows up. The worst pain can sometimes clear the path to the best version of you. I'm not the man who made avocado toast for a woman who laughed about betraying him. I'm not the guy who mistook loyalty for blind devotion. I'm the man who stood in the rubble of his marriage and built something better, brick by brick, day by day. And every morning I wake up without that knot in my stomach. That's my peace. That's my win.